Hello and welcome to a Sunday evening edition of the Managing Madrid Podcast. I'm your host, Kiyan Sobhani, joined by the great Matt Wiltse tonight. We are going to review a game that, quite frankly, was a shit show at the Mestalla, a brutal game this evening to watch. And not even, there was a bunch of bad things that happened, but at the top of the list of the bad things was disgusting racism and a bunch of other things that happened. And quite frankly, just a brutal game to take in on a Sunday evening. We watch this game because it's our job. The only good news really today was happening simultaneously as the game at the Mestalla was Real Madrid Baloncesto were playing a EuroLeague final and they won it. And that was the great news. And I wasn't sure what was happening there because they kept refreshing the score and they were down in the fourth quarter. They ended up winning 79-78. So big congratulations to all the Madridistas and all the followers of Real Madrid Baloncesto and also Baloncesto themselves, who have had an amazing season. Obviously, they beat Barcelona just prior to this final to get here. So that's the only great news today. The rest we have to talk about, and it's unfortunate what we have to talk about because it's not going to be football focused in our limited time we have. Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Kiyan. Yeah, unfortunately, this continues to happen. I think that's the most frustrating thing when we talk about this, is that this has been a theme all season. Vinicius has been subject to racial abuse all season long, and it hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse, in my opinion. And that's a major problem. And yes, we could say today, hey, it was maybe a little bit better in that the referee tried to stop play. There were multiple folks involved. They had the stadium announcement, but I still feel like more could have been done. I personally, in hindsight now, I guess after the match, it was reported that Vinicius was telling the ref and Ancelotti that he's just going to walk off and not play. He doesn't want to play anymore. And in hindsight, I think that probably would have been the right move. Like, I think that would have sent a better message, and I think it would have gotten him out of any trouble. And so, yeah, it's beyond frustrating. It's beyond, for me, like, as someone, like, I love Spain. I feel an affection for this country. I feel like I feel a part of me is like connected to that country. But when I see these things happen, it's just so frustrating. And it's Spain and La Liga are now in like developing this reputation, or already have this reputation of being a racist country, and it's only getting worse. It's not getting better, and I think it's really frustrating.
So I really am upset by the way everything was dealt with tonight because, the funny thing is that the fact that they actually stopped the game while it not being enough, because I agree with you, he has all the right in the world to just walk off. I think that would have been powerful. I would have supported that. But the fact that the game was stopped was actually the most La Liga has done in a game this season. Right there to just stop it. Now, like, as Ewan explained on Twitter, that this was the first time Vinicius could pinpoint who it was, and that's why the game was stopped. He went to the referee. And in other cases, you just hear it, and then later on, the cameras or the mics pick it up, and they have been able to identify in some cases who the culprit is. So in this case, it was stopped. That was a great progress. I think more could have been done. If Vinicius actually I don't really know. Again, this is right after the game, so I don't know if they actually took that fan out. I hope they did. If they identified him, if they identified him and didn't take action apart from the announcement in the stadium, which said stop making racist remarks, otherwise we'll suspend the game. I really hope that they took action on that. I don't know. Again, this is right after recording, so I haven't checked anything and read anything. So there's that. But it just got worse. And this is the biggest problem to me. It's allowed in Spain in a way that it's just never going to be allowed in a European competition. And what I mean by that, by it being allowed in Spain, is not by like they allow it in the rule book. They allow it because they let it go. They let things go. They don't protect Vinicius in the game. And then the whole story, everything we have to deal with is bullshit. Like, oh, he provoked. Hugo Duro put him in a chokehold and Vinicius gets a red card. I don't care what the hell Vinicius has ever done to quote unquote provoke. That is the ultimate provocation. When you put someone in a chokehold, that's not provoking. And this is VAR. VAR has a huge responsibility here because the referee, you can at least say that he had to go over to the images and see what VAR has put out for him. VAR has a responsibility to show the referee the correct images. VAR only showed the referee the image of Vinicius retaliating to Hugo Duro. That's insane. And then you just keep letting shit like this go. Hugo Duro I'm sure will not be vilified in the media because that's not how it works. We know why. And they just let this stuff go. Again, I've said this many times. Beyond the very, very basic human principle of racism is disgusting. Beyond that, like, you got to protect your stars, man. Like, it's not even it, but that's just even a secondary point. Shouldn't have we went there. Ultimately, stop letting this shit go. Start doing way, way, way better.
It's the Hugo Duro thing is beyond me. Like, that is, I can't even grasp it. I can't grasp it because you see it's Vinicius obviously involved in the incident. So how quickly after did we see Vinicius do the elbow that we saw that he was in a chokehold from Hugo Duro? Like, we saw those images pretty, like, literally, I feel like 30 seconds to a minute after. So why would you rush to give the red card to Vinicius and not look to see, given all the context of what's already happened in this match, given everything you already know, why don't you look to see how this whole event originated and what transpired during that event? And it really came from, like, Mamardashvili is the one that kind of incinerated everything, and the fact that he came rushing over and just made it a way bigger deal than it was. And then Hugo Duro took the opportunity to put Vinny in a chokehold during that moment. Like, it's beyond, for me, that's beyond ridiculous that Valencia comes out of that unscathed. It's, I can't even wrap my head around it. And I think it almost, like, when Vinicius got the red card, it almost brings, I felt like it brought back to that when that one journalist asked the question to Ancelotti, like, should Vinicius get a red card for, and it's just so backwards. Everything's backwards, and the fact that Vinicius ends up leaving this match with a red card is even more backwards. Like, it's just it's broken. La Liga's broken.
They tried so hard to push this narrative of that he provokes. I was sitting there in the pregame press conference at the Etihad the day before the game, and the Spanish media was asking Kyle Walker about Vinicius' provocation. Yeah. And you saw Walker's answer, right? He was like, he shut it down right away. And there's just, this is now somehow a minor part of the game. Somehow, in an incident I've never seen before, Comert kicks a ball at Vinicius, who's running into the box. And somehow that ridiculous play that I've never seen before is a minute part of this game now. Like, it's overshadowed completely. Yeah. Have you ever seen that before? And the commentator was trying to explain, like, the rules of the game. Like, I don't know what the rules of the game says or what it should say, but I just know that you can't do that. That's insane. You can't kick a ball at a player who's running in the box. You can't.
It was,
got a yellow
and
flag,
it was 100% deliberate too.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he just kicked it to, like, kick it out of bounds or, like, get it off the field. He kicked it at Vinicius, at the ball that it was running, and Vinicius had his man beat. Like, he was just about to turn the shoulder and turn the corner on that touchline. And so, to be honest, I almost forgot about that now before you brought it up. Like, that's how insane this match was, and all of the ridiculousness that was included.
I think I'm just looking at some post-game quotes now, and I think Ancelotti confirmed that he was getting monkey chants. Vinicius was getting monkey chants. It drives me nuts that the narrative somehow will come out of this. And I hope, maybe I'm wrong, but I've just seen it so much this season. The narrative comes out that Vinicius is the one provokes, especially when you saw him coming off the field when he's gesturing to the fans. You guys are going out of Segunda.
Yeah.
That'll be what's going to be plastered everywhere. Like, see, Like, look what he's saying. He's insulting the fans. Like, and it just, we're not talking about the right thing. So here's the quote from Carlo Ancelotti. I spoke with him during the game because the atmosphere was very hot and getting very bad. I asked him, he's talking about Vinicius. I asked him if he wanted to continue playing. I didn't want to take him off because the environment, just because the environment was racist. It's never happened to me, not in that way. It is unacceptable that the Spanish league has a problem, and the problem is not Vinicius. He is the victim. What is there for him to do? You can't play football like that. I would say the same if we had won. It's too seriously insult Vinicius all the time, and they give him a red card. I'm very sad. And he actually said exactly what the crowd says. He said, I've never seen an entire stadium being racist and yelling monkey, monkey, monkey. Crazy. So obviously the word used was mono.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, it doesn't matter that even if doesn't like Vinicius's insult of telling the Valencia fans you're going down to Segunda does not warrant him being racially abused. Any of the trash talking that he does, any of the insults that he provides to the opposition fans or teammates, like, that doesn't mean it's fair to racially abuse him. That doesn't mean like, oh, because he does this, now we're going to racially abuse him. No, that's not how this works, and that's not how it should ever work. And I think that's where it's backwards. Like, that's where there's a lot of ignorance from the folks who are chanting this over in Spain. And so, honestly, I was thinking to myself though, like, Vinny is as Madridista as they come, for the fact that he continually keeps saying that he wants to stay here and play for Madrid and play for this club and for as long as possible and be like Sergio Ramos and Marcelo and so on and so forth. I would not blame him in the least if he after everything that's happened this year, if he wanted to leave, I would not blame him in the least. I mean, who wants to deal with this on a day in, day out or week in, week out basis in La Liga? Like, who in their right mind would want to deal with this? He doesn't deal with this in Europe. Like you said, you brought up the Kyle Walker thing. We saw how Reece James, same thing. Like, nobody has an issue with him playing up against him in Europe, and yet this continually happens in La Liga.
And this is the other part that has to be stressed. How difficult it must be, obviously, for him not only have to deal with it, but to deal with so much of this alone. I mean, you think back to the fact that so many games this season, he didn't get help, support from his teammates, and at times also was asked to calm down by his teammates. You also think about the fact that Real Madrid didn't do much publicly at all, and he's alone. So if your teammates in your club don't really have your back, that's really hard, I think, from your mental health. And then we question every decision he makes and don't take into account his mental health and any of that stuff, dealing with all that. I think it would have been a perfectly reasonable decision to walk off as a team. And in fact, I would have preferred if that happened, to be quite honest with you now, especially in hindsight, seeing how it unfolded. And I hope that the team just does walk off next time. I really do. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. And I just don't like, I don't even want to, like, I don't have any interest to talk about the game, to be honest. Like, what is there to say, really? The league is done. Valencia fighting for their lives. We are now in third place.
Yeah, I mean, this game was dramatically overshadowed by everything that happened. Real Madrid, once again, were not good. We did not play well. I mean, I just finished up doing the player ratings. It was really hard to pick anyone who played particularly well. I thought actually Marco Asensio, he didn't have much contact with the ball, but when he did, I thought he did well. And surprisingly, he had 4 completed dribbles and won all of 7 of his 50-50 duels. So that surprised me. And then he also obviously had those two lovely kind of in-swinging through balls to Vinicius. But other than that, like, there really wasn't much. I mean, I guess we could talk about the midfield setup, since it was Tchouaméni, Camavinga, and Ceballos to start this game.
Asensio had all those 4 dribbles in the first half. I mean, I think like in terms of people who played well, I think I actually thought Cruz was pretty good off the bench.
Yeah,
I
Cruz
thought
was Cruz was.
I thought I thought Rudiger, I mean,
Yeah,
looked pretty
Rudiger
good.
as well.
I mean, he single-handedly stopped a couple transition attacks. Camavinga was, I thought, positive. Had a couple like kind of, I mean, he was good under pressure, but I think his passing could have been a little bit better. What did you think about Tchouaméni today?
Um, I thought he was good on the ball, particularly like going forward and in tight situations. I thought like he was able to dribble out of pressure a number of times. He had 3 completed dribbles in this game. And even when he was higher up the pitch, just around Valencia's box, I thought he did well in tight confines to just do quick 1-2 touches. I still think like when I watch him, and I think it's because he's still not used to being a lone pivot. Like he's always been a double pivot or even like kind of box to box midfielder. Um, I still think when he's that lone pivot, he struggles to occupy the right spaces defensively and gets caught out sometimes. And I thought Valencia took advantage of that on a couple occasions. But definitely a better game than what we had seen more recently, I would say.
Kind of maybe just from the football perspective side of things, I mean, Valencia started pretty aggressive. We struggled to get the ball in meaningful areas. Vinicius and Benzema were really tightly marked. Asensio was playing quite narrow in this game too. I mean, some of that was solved when Rodrigo came in because in the second half he had 2 pretty good chances in the right half space there. And then we had that kind of like that flurry where the Valencia goalkeeper, I always thought I would never be able to pronounce Kvaratskhelia, but this guy's on another level with his name.
I think this guy's easier.
Really? All right, go for it.
Mamardashvili.
All right, fair enough. He made 3 unreal saves.
Yeah, he did.
The Fede one point blank, where Vinicius, who was it that set up Fede? It was Benzema, I think. Benzema set up Fede for that chance. His link-up play, like in and around the box, was actually decent, but there wasn't much space. That was one of the rare moments where he actually found someone with a good chance in the box. So that Fede shot,
Fede should have done better there?
Probably.
I feel like he hit it right at him.
Yeah, probably. He didn't make it that difficult for him. And then you had the Cruz free kick, and then what was the third one?
The Benzema, when Cruz played Benzema in over the top, and he like turns, and when he turns, Mamardashvili's right there.
Should that have been a PK? I think it would have been soft, probably.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Very loose whistle today, in general. I feel like
I kind of like that though.
I think it's good to an extent. I mean, like so much of our complaints about La Liga is that there's too many cards, too many stoppages, too many reds.
Yeah.
There's the fine balance. As long as you're just, I think the protection of the players still should be number one priority. But
yeah,
I do think sometimes it sets a precedence of like, okay, anything goes basically.
Yeah, I guess you could argue like, is that the reason why the match got out of hand? I don't know though. I think after the stoppage, like things were just so heated that maybe it was going to happen regardless. But I guess in a normal match, I kind of liked how he let it go a little bit more for both sides. Like, there were a couple times where obviously Vinny was upset that he didn't get some calls. Rodrigo, same. But there was one challenge I think of where Tchouaméni, like, it didn't really look like he got the ball, but the referee just let it go on. And so like I prefer that. Just let the game flow a little bit more.
Yeah. Just looking at, I think I think Real Madrid like was kind of like in the second half they probably were the better team. I mean, the second half was really just them piling on the pressure, Valencia trying to get on breaks, and their goalkeeper making some pretty crazy saves.
What did you make of Camavinga as a number 8 and then Ceballos on the right side of midfield?
Well, I thought Ceballos didn't look great tonight. And some of his just passing attempts weren't great. Camavinga felt like just by looking at it, if he was playing a lot it felt like him and Tchouaméni were quite interchangeable as the pivot in some sense, because Camavinga would often be in zone 14 defending and be the anchor in the build-up. I was kind of more interested to see Camavinga and Tchouaméni play into the double pivot. That's the Bios and Tchouaméni played in the second half.
Yeah, me too.
Because Rodrigo comes in for Camavinga at halftime, which then you have this kind of 4-2-3-1 happening.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think all of Carlo Ancelotti's press conference after the game was about Vinicius. So, but I don't know for sure. But maybe the Camavinga was premeditated that he would get 45 minutes today.
Yeah, I saw that was reported afterwards. So
yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, like almost everyone from City was benched today, or not benched, rested, I guess is the word.
Yeah, and I think I'm like conflicted with Camavinga because I liked what I saw in glimpses. Like I thought there was some really good combination play between him, Vinicius, and Mendy down the left. And I think like when Camavinga can make bursting runs from midfield, like that's when he's at his best. What I struggle with him as a number 8 sometimes is when he has his back to goal or when he has to play in the half space. I just don't think he's as good. I like him facing goal, picking up the ball deeper and able to beat guys off the dribble or just facing upward rather than his back to goal and higher up the pitch. And so that's why, like you, I would have been really interested to see the double pivot with Rodrigo just in front of them. I think that would have been really interesting. But yeah, that's where like I guess I just got to see more of Camavinga to see if I really am convinced for him at the number 8 position. Because right now, I'll tell you, I'm still leaning towards I like him better as a number 6.
Should we talk about Mendy?
Yeah, we should.
You're the left back expert.
Yeah. So this was kind of as bad as it gets from Mendy and like schoolboy errors in terms of the goal. I think Militao could have done a lot better in terms of just providing more pressure on the ball. Like Kluivert was his man. Like that's where he needed to be. He needed to close that space between the two of them, and Tchouaméni was helping him out. But in reality, it was Militao's man. And then Mendy just completely switches off. And the worst thing, even worse than the switch off, was he never checked his back shoulder and his body positioning was all wrong. Like you're supposed to have your hips open, meaning like you can see both the touchline and the ball. And his hips were turned. His body was facing sideways. So he never saw Diego Lopez behind him. And it was just an easy run in behind. And I feel like this is actually as good as Mendy is defensively and how we give him so much credit for the solidity he brings. I feel like this happens actually quite often. Like he sometimes switches off at the back post and that goal. That's not the first time we've seen that. Obviously he's coming back. He's rusty. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt there. But this was kind of like defending 101.
I have to bring it back to Vinicius and the racism. So Ewan was tweeting about this because he was covering the press conference for us. He says there's tension in Ancelotti's press conference. A journalist has said, quote, to Carlo Ancelotti, since you previously had problems with the language, I'll clarify it for you. Mestalla wasn't chanting monkey, mono. They were chanting silly, tonto. It's a serious accusation to say a whole stadium was racist, and Ancelotti's response was, whether it was mono or tonto, the referee stopped the game to open the racism protocol. He wouldn't do that if they just chanted tonto, speak to the referee. I just want to make a comment on this because there is video evidence that they literally said mono and not tonto. I don't know who that journalist was. I got a similar I was at the Civitas Metropolitano for the derby, which was, remember, before the game, Koke was talking about Vinicius dancing, and that became a thing. And during that game, they had a similar chant. They said mono, 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 but there was also a tonto, tonto, tonto chant. And I reported that they were saying mono, mono in the stadium. And a bunch of Atletico fans found my Twitter and were like, "You're misreporting." We said tonto, and I just knew that there was mono and tonto. There was two separate things happening, and there was a video evidence of mono as well. And I think this is what's the case here. I think that journalists, I don't know who it was, but they have to be way, way, way more careful in the way they do it. Also, here's we were right, by the way. Here's the premonition. Our premonition was right. Here's the headline in Marca in the article. The headline is "Direct Red to Vinicius for attacking Hugo Duro." That's the headline. And
God,
brutal. It's just, of course. Like, I mean, we're not surprised, right? But it's just really discouraging to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you have to go, right? You gotta wrap it up here.
I got 5 minutes.
Okay. What did you want to prioritize in our last 5 minutes or so?
I don't know. What from a season perspective now, like, given Vinicius' suspension, do you just say, do we even have 2 games left? Yeah, we have 2 games left, right? So
I thought we had 3, but I really not keeping track of whatever's left. Rayo on Wednesday, Sevilla on Saturday, and then Athletic on.
Oh wow! So we have 3. Okay.
So we do have 3, 2 at home.
So what do you think? Do you just say, you know what, Vinicius, like, you've had a hell of a season, like, do you just end it here and say, you know what, it's been a great season, or how do you handle? I don't think Ancelotti would do that, but I don't know what the best protocol is moving forward here.
I think to kind of let him, and I don't think, first of all, I don't think he would accept that, because it kind of gives off the image of like, okay, you guys win, I give up, I don't want to play these games. I don't think that's the right message.
And players always want to play.
I will say that the game against Sevilla next week could be quite, all these away games have been kind of the same, so you could definitely see some tension there. The last game at home, Athletic, I think for sure, I think everyone should play that game in some sense, because it's the kind of the goodbye for the season. And it's kind of just a send off, and you're not resting anyone for anyone really from here on in, so it doesn't really matter. And Castilla are fighting. They're not going to get in directly now, so they got to go to the playoffs. And so they, I don't think we'll be using those players either. So, yeah, I would say he probably just plays, apart from that Rayo game next week.
I would love to see Ancelotti just going forward, just continue to play, like, just give the 4-2-3-1 a go. Continue to play this midfield. Even with this midfield today, like, do the double pivot and put Ceballos in front of him. And interchange Ceballos and Rodrigo in that position. But I would love to see more of that. And, like, we know what we're getting from Kroos and Modric. We know we're going to likely have them for another year. Why not test things out? I wish Arribas was healthy, because why not see what you can get from him on the right side? Or even as a number 10 and subbing on in that position. Because I know the Castilla things, like, I feel like they're kind of out of it at this point, but they're still, I guess they can still fight for a playoff position. So I don't know that Álvaro or some of those guys will even get any minutes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going with too. Maybe we can, maybe Hazard can have one last masterclass.
No, I'm not allowed.
For showcasing purposes, we got to showcase him. We got to market him. We got to at least try.
Come on, Saudi Arabia, come in for him. US, MLS.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, this is the thing. I don't really blame Hazard for not wanting to leave the situation. I've said this many times. I don't even blame Mariano Diaz for wanting to stay here.
I don't blame him.
Like, again, like, we, living in Madrid, training with the best players in the world, getting paid, never getting injured because you're never playing.
Yeah. The thing that's tough is just, like, he really has to put his ego to the side. I guess he's already done that and like
Yeah, I
accepted
don't
it.
think it's ego. I think it's
It's
like
just
lack of
hard to,
ambition.
yeah. I mean, it's hard to just the player he formerly was. Like ah, you, I feel like you had to have an ego, and you had to push that to the side and just be like okay with being on the bench. That's hard. I
Yeah.
mean, every player wants to play. I don't care who you are. Every player wants to play. Odriozola wants to play. Every player wants to play. And yeah, I just think all right, if you can do another season of that, then go for it. But it's hard to just sit there and not play any games.
Yep. Um, all right, Matt, we're gonna wrap it here. Just so listeners know, there is a part 2 coming up. It is Castilla Corner, so stick around for that. Also, just wanted to say that, Matt, the feed on Wednesday night after the game, the feedback we got from that podcast was amazing. I think everyone loved the fact that there were so many people with diverse opinions, kind of just having a respectful dialogue. So
Yeah, it was
I
fun.
think we'll keep doing that for big games or big moments. We had 7 members on staff on that night, which was great. So everyone loved that. So thank you for everyone who joined that Zoom call. We maxed out again. It's nice to see that the Zoom call doesn't get maxed out only on like comebacks and
Yeah.
big wins. It shows that, win or lose, whatever it is, people are there. So it was awesome seeing you guys inside. Patreon.com/Managing Madrid. You can get in on that. I know the season is over, but we are still continuing the weekly Zoom calls, and we are also like, there could be we hope breaking transfer news that we get to discuss, like positive, really good signings and stuff like that we'll probably do over there as well. Matt, thanks for your time, buddy.
Yep.
Good chatting.
Thanks, Kiyan.
Stick around for part 2, guys. It's coming up.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Managing Madrid Podcast. This is the Castilla Corner, and we are here to talk about yet another disappointing result from Real Madrid Castilla. And I am here with Hridyam. How are you, Hridyam?
I'm doing okay. I watched the game. I was expecting something more from Castilla, but you know what? Without Arribas, without Dotor, without so many other players, I still thought they'd win, but I'm just glad they didn't lose again. So,
yeah. Unfortunately, this 0-0 draw against Fuenlabrada means that it's now impossible for Castilla to get the direct promotion. It's still possible to get promoted, of course, through the playoffs, but that will be quite a difficult task, as we've seen quite a few times over the years. Right now, we are actually 6 points behind Racing Ferrol, who are leading the table, and we are 5 points behind Alcorcon in second. We are on the same amount of points as Deportivo. We are ahead on goal difference, I guess.
no, I think it's head to head.
Okay, I didn't check that.
Yeah, because we have an inferior goal difference, but we're still third.
Oh, that's good to know, because then we have the confirmation that that's actually what matters when it's head to head. Primera RFF. Let me just check real quickly. But yeah, disappointing game for Labrada. For those who don't know, it's a side fighting against relegation.
Mm-hmm.
They are now after this. They lost points as well, so it was another important game for them. But they are now in the relegation zone. It was yet another game that we expected them to win. No, we looked at the fixtures a few game weeks back, and we thought this looks good. But yeah, yet another disappointing point loss.
Yeah, it's. As I said, I expected Castilla to win this game. I expected Castilla to win most of their last 5 games. They won one of their last 5, 2 of their last 6, which is not good at all. Like for a team that's fighting for promotion, and they had it in their hands, and they could have been on the top of the table right now, but they lost so many games. I don't think this draw even mattered that much, because Racing Ferrol and Alcorcon won their games. Even if we had won our game, we'd be 4 points behind Ferrol, so it wouldn't have mattered if he'd won. But still, I mean, I expected a win. Yeah, Castilla they dominated the game, but they didn't really have anything productive in front of goal. Like, they had one chance. I think that was Álvaro's crossbar hit, which was sensational, by the way. But apart from that, I didn't really see that much from Castilla to say that, you know what, they had so many good chances, but the keeper was really good. It was just Castilla being wasteful with their chances, and most of them were like half chances. I don't really expect them to go in that much. Like, it was a dull game for both teams.
I agree that it was most of the chances were like half chances, and Álvaro did hit the crossbar. I mean, we had a few, like, I would kind of call them clear opportunities, but we ended up not finishing, for example. So it's difficult to say that we were actually close, but we were creating some good, I don't know how to describe it. Half opportunities, I guess, is a decent word. But Álvaro had, as you said, not very nice finish, hit the crossbar just before being subbed. And I thought one of our best players, one of our most dangerous creating players today was Obrador from the left wing back.
Definitely.
He's just full of energy, that guy.
Yeah, he just doesn't stop running, man. He's really fast, and he keeps that up for the majority of the game, and it's really surprising. Like, he's really good. Most of our attacks, at least in the first half, they came from the left side, with Álvaro Martín progressing the ball towards, or Marvel progressing the ball towards Obrador.
Also Aranda.
Yeah, Aranda as well. But Aranda I think he was a bit wasteful with a few of his sequences. Like, he would sometimes dribble where there's no need to dribble. He would sometimes pass where there's no one there to pass the ball to. And, like, I don't know, I think I was a bit disappointed by Aranda. But Obrador was really good. I definitely agree. I think he was the best player.
Because he still keeps surprising me, because I've had such low expectations from him ever since he started the season being left out. I think he started the season as a starter and then lost his place. Was out for a while, I think, and then he won it back. So I just have always looked at him like someone who will eventually lose his place again. But he's playing well, and I'm now starting to think, is it time to consider him for first team opportunities, for example? I mean, if there was another player, I think I would consider it. For example, we have made the comparisons to Vinicius Tobias. I think Obrador creates much more than Vinicius Tobias. It could be that we attack more down his side, for example, but no, I think he deserves a lot of praise, Obrador.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Obrador has been much more lively in the attack than Vinicius Tobias, and I mean, this is the thing, right? So he's decent defensively, and he was really, he was not bad today. He had a few good interceptions and stuff, but I want to see him play in a 4 at the back first before I make a judgment about whether he's good enough for the first team, because we've seen him, he always has cover from Marvel, right? So I want to see him play first for 2 center backs and 2 full backs. If he plays well in that system, I think it's good enough to at least consider him for the first team. I'm not saying he's incredibly good. He's the best left back in the world. No, I think he's really an exciting prospect, and if he plays well in the 4 at the back, I think I do think he should be considered for the first team, because my God, he'd be so good with Vinicius. Oh my God, that would be sensational.
Of course, I think it's a long way to actually play for the first team, because you have Mendy, we have Frank Garcia probably returning, and then Camavinga, we have good options, but it's just I think guess it's just something we should at least consider. And I'm not sure if he will stay for the next season, but him going with the first team on the summer tour, for example, stuff like that. I think he deserves now to be in consideration for those rewards.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think Mendy, because I've seen reports that Mendy is being sold. I mean, at least Real Madrid want him to go or something. He might not go. I mean, he might stay, and who knows? But like, if he leaves, I think it opens up a spot for Obrador to at least be considered for a few games this season. Like, I'm not saying he'd be a first team player. I just, for a few games, like Álvaro Rodríguez was for the first team.
Yeah. So you mentioned Aranda. I see what you mean, that he was maybe a bit wasteful, but he is at the same time. I'm not gonna say, maybe I'm gonna use too much of a big word here, but he's a dribbling machine. No, I mean, he can just dribble all day. He will take on defenders, and he will maybe sometimes slow down the attack, but he will at least win a free kick. I just think he gives us something that the other players don't have, and especially with Arribas out, I actually like his contributions. But at the same, I can see what you mean, that he maybe his decision making could be off. But what saves him at times is that even though maybe he's making some wrong decisions, he gets out of it because he just has top quality on the ball. So he did combine a bit with Obrador, and I didn't think it was bad at all. I actually liked his performance, but the end product, I guess, is what's missing.
Yeah, I mean, in the build-up, Aranda was not bad. I think he's a good dribbler, and he has contributed a lot as of late for the Castilla team. But in this specific game, I think he was just trying a bit too much, at least in that sense. And I'm not just talking about dribbling. I think his passing could have been a lot better. Like, he was in transition. It was a counterattack, and he had two players just beside him, and he decided to be really close to the defender before trying to pass, and he ended up losing the ball, and the chance was wasted. I think he did it a couple of times during counterattacks, but yeah, he did link up well with Álvaro Martín. I think it was Álvaro Martín would pass and go, and then Álvaro Martín would play a through ball between the lines, and I think that specific sequence was working for Castilla, and he was good in that. But I just think he was a bit wasteful in the other opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But he's a very entertaining player, and I do think sometimes what could he have been if he had just a little bit more pace, because he's not slow, but he's almost like a bit. He's a little bit heavy, I think, a little bit heavy. Just I don't know. That's how he looks, a bit heavy. It's a weird player to describe, because he's a bit heavy on the ball, but sometimes he can dribble, and I don't know. But I think it does give the team something else. And today the problem was that Fuenlabrada, for the most part, at least in the first half, they created very few chances. They were like just sitting back, and they were not taking care of the counterattacks in a good way. And I was just thinking, this is not a good team we're facing here. I can see why they are near the relegation zone. But they actually came back and fought us for a bit. And for example, they actually had the best opportunity of the game when they, from a set piece, of course, as always with Castilla, set piece, far post. Some guy gets a super opportunity to score from like 2 yards, and I think Mario De Luis saves it. Then the rebound goes a little bit out, but he hits the crossbar. So that's what this Castilla team is capable of: creating some good chances and having the momentum, and then just out of nothing, the opponents, doesn't matter how poor they've been, they can get a great opportunity.
I think that's also the first team.
Yeah,
you've seen bad teams play against the first team, and they act like absolute gods. So
I guess it's that's kind of one of the cons of if you're the superior team and you're dominating the ball and everything, then it's not so easy to be that concentrated for the very few times you have to defend. So that's why defending for Real Madrid is such a difficult job, because you have a high line, a lot of space to run in behind. You don't really have to defend that much during the game, but sometimes the opponent will take care of their possession, and that's when you have to be concentrated. And so that's, for Castilla, there's no excuse for not defending a set piece, for example. So I guess maybe they're just switching off, and maybe also it's about the opponent being dominant physically. But yeah, I don't know. It's classic Castilla.
Yep, classic Castilla.
Yeah.
I also think there's one point that we should make about the attack, is that even though Álvaro Martín was he was really important in terms of ball progression and acting, doing his best Arribas impression by going up and passing the ball to the attackers and stuff. But I think the defense was fine, but the attack, it just lacked that intent and some ideas, because Arribas wasn't there, and Nico Paz also, he does provide a lot for the team whenever he plays, and he wasn't there as well. The team was there wasn't a linking pin between the attack and the midfield, except for sometimes when Álvaro Martín was going forward. So I think that was a bit stale, I guess, because especially because if you look at the midfield, it was just a two-man midfield with Álvaro Martín and Theo Zidane, who was, again, I don't like him. He tries so hard. I know I said the same thing about Aranda, but Aranda at least backs it up sometimes. He wasted so many chances just because he was dribbling. He was trying to dribble. He was not looking for an open player, and he lost the ball twice in his own half in the first 10 minutes of the game. I made note of this. Yeah, and then he had one really good tackle, Camavinga-esque, just going. He tackled from behind and got the ball cleanly. I think that was his best. That was his biggest contribution to the game. Apart from that, he was really slow, and he slowed the game down. I think I just don't that much.
So this time he actually got to play against his brother, who was subbed on. But I think he's not an ideal player to have there. He was replaced by Mario Martin, but it's I don't know why he started. He has been starting quite a few games as a defensive midfielder lately. Peter also, you say it's a two-man midfield. I kind of agree, but Peter was, I don't know what to say about his role. He was kind of playing a little bit centrally, a little bit on the right, a little bit, So I felt like he was kind of part of the midfield three in a way.
I guess, but he wasn't Peter didn't. I don't think he did enough for me to say he was the linking pin between the attack and the midfield.
No.
That's why I chose the two midfielders, because I didn't see Peter as a midfielder, because his best moments came from the wing, in my opinion. Where he got
and he naturally drifts to the wing, of course. That's his main position.
Yeah, exactly. So the point I was making with Theo is that because of Theo, I don't think Álvaro Martín got to go forward as much. And obviously we didn't have the Tour, so the Tour didn't make his runs into the box. And the midfield just lacked that spark, and the attack also lacked some spark. I think possession-wise we were dominant, and we had the ball for the majority of the game, but we just didn't have enough clear-cut chances. And I don't know.
Yeah, Álvaro Martín he's a very solid player, but he's not a spectacular player. He does most things well. He can pass, he can dribble, he can also score, he works hard, but not a spectacular player, and I guess that's what sets him apart from Arribas. That Arribas, of course, does everything a little bit better, then also has the spectacular moments. But
Yeah, definitely.
Álvaro, a bit of a quiet game. Did hit the crossbar as you mentioned. What do you think about his performance overall?
Yeah, I think he was a bit quiet. In the first half, I didn't see much of him. In the second half, I think he was a bit more involved. He tried to dribble past a few defenders. Sometimes he failed, sometimes he didn't. He played the ball out to the wings quite a bit, just to Obrador, because Obrador was cooking, like literally. And I think he was important in switching the play from the right to the left. But like in terms of attack, like he didn't have any clear-cut opportunities except for the crossbar hit, I think. And yeah, I mean, at the end, he was subbed off for Noel Lopez, wasn't he? Towards the end of the...
Yeah, there were a lot of subs, so I actually lost the view. But yeah, he was one of the players going off.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, at 81st minute he was subbed off for. I mean, it says Alex Jimenez, but it was basically Noel Lopez.
Yeah, there were a lot of subs. Yeah.
Yeah, so he didn't really have a good game, and I think it's kind of worrying because he hasn't had a good game in quite a while. It's been a long time. And I mean, he still works hard. He doesn't give up. That's a good quality. But if you're expecting him to play for the first team, you need to see, some sort of contribution from a player like Álvaro. He is really talented. He just needs to show that talent.
I just feel like it's such a shame that the season is ending in this way. Of course, it can still be a good end to the season if we win the playoffs. But there are so many players who were on a high. The team was on a high. Just a great winning streak. We did have a crazy number of games without losing. And Álvaro was one of the players who always was impressive. Now, when we are, I guess the president, Ancelotti, Jose Angel Sanchez, Califat, they are now planning of course they have been doing it for a while, but planning the next season with Álvaro now. I guess there are some doubts in their heads, and there are some reports that Joselu, the old Castilla player, could return. Of course, playing for a relegation threatened Espanyol. What do you think now about the backup striker situation? Because I think it very well could come down to Álvaro or someone like Joselu. If not Joselu, at least someone like him who will not cost a lot of money.
I saw the reports for Joselu, and I also saw some reports that, I mean, I don't know which one is true and which one isn't, but they're also looking for a young striker that has some sort of experience.
Well, good luck with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just...
Young striker, willing to sit on the bench all the time, and with experience, with quality, and not expensive. Well, okay, let's see.
Yeah, that's just, it kind of seems unlikely, but it's just so that Benzema, he pushes Benzema, to the maximum. That's the report. I'm not saying it's I don't know.
Did you mention the name? Who did you mention the name, or just in general?
No, it's just general. It's just Marco tweeted, I think, and
someone who would push Benzema. You mean? Yeah.
Someone who would. Yeah, I mean, I think Joselu would, or someone like Joselu, who's, as I've said before, I think in the previous pod, someone who's experienced and doesn't mind being on the bench, doesn't mind being the backup striker, but can also play well whenever needed because of his experience. I think that's a good that's a good striker to have, but at the same time, I think Benzema has slowed down quite a lot. So, I mean, this season in general, if you think about it, Benzema hasn't really been that good, except for a few games, I guess, against Barcelona, against, I don't know which team it was, the team he scored a hat trick against. I think it was Valladolid. But yeah, I mean, he's not really had that many good games this season, and I think I mean, they could have signed a striker to compete with Benzema for the first spot, but I think they just have too much faith in Benzema, and it might haunt them in the future, like in the immediate future. But if they're looking for someone like Joselu, I think Joselu would be a decent fit, I guess. He can score off the bench. Yeah.
Yeah, he's also actually been playing for the national team and even scoring lately. So yeah, I guess it's an option. I'm not so sure. He's 33 years old. I guess if you give him a 1 or 2 year contract, it could work.
Yeah.
I just it just doesn't feel like a Real Madrid kind of signing with our current transfer policy. We always sign younger players. Who was the last player over 30 that we signed? I mean, I can think of any of the from the top of my head, but
I mean, Álvaro was 29.
Yeah, but like a real veteran, someone who I think maybe Álvaro was even 28 when we signed him, then quickly turned 29. So you of course have Rudiger. I mean, but like last 32, 33-year-old player, I cannot remember the last time that happened. So at least on a permanent signing. So the fact with Joselu, of course you always have some examples of players who could go on for many years, but Joselu will probably from now on just get worse every year. He will probably get more injury prone. And you know, I don't know. At the same time, Álvaro will go in the opposite direction. So I think Álvaro has a good case to still be the first team second striker. I would also be very curious to see what happens if you just play Álvaro in like when Benzema needs rest. Let's say Getafe at home, and it's like game week 17. We're still in the title race and everything, and the team is in good form. And then you just bring on Vinicius, Rodrigo, and maybe if we can sign Bellingham, if we Camavinga, just the whole first team, and with Álvaro up top, not with the reserve side, or not with just Odriozola and whoever on the back. Play a full strength side with Álvaro. How will he cope? Because I think that's the problem with Castilla players. They always have to play in difficult circumstances. I think it's a bit of a shame if we go with Joselu over. I mean, it's like Joselu. The risk reward. I don't know, man. I guess it's a decent option, but I don't think it's gonna make a huge impact to our season.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something that this team lacks, is that you need an attacking presence that can score goals, like whenever they start or off the bench. And Álvaro has scored off the bench, but I think the sample size is a bit too, like it's not enough. Yeah. I don't think, and because he starts most games for Castilla, and he plays well, but he's only made a few appearances for the first team off the bench. So I'd like to see a bit more of him playing off the bench and as a striker for the first team. I agree. I think my decision would be based on how he performs for the first team. If he plays a bit more than he has this season, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, Jose. I mean, he's not my perfect signing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think he provides like a year or two for Álvaro to improve, and then I'm not saying sign him for 3 or 4 years. I'm not even saying to sign him. I think I'd prefer someone else. I wouldn't. Joselu would be the top of my list. But yeah, if we're going that way, if we're going for an experienced striker, I think for a year or maybe 2 years, I think he'd be okay. But I genuinely think we need to find a player that can challenge or even bench Benzema sometimes, because Benzema, I don't know, man. Yeah. Like, I was expecting a lot from Benzema, and I mean, as I should, I guess, from the Ballon d'Or winner. But like this season entirely, he scored most of his goals from penalties, and he's been decent, like play wise and stuff. But even in that, aspect of his game. I think just his body has deteriorated a little bit because he's had so many injuries this season, and he's getting old. You need a forward, I think, to just take some load off of him, maybe even play a bit more.
But this is like the discussions we have all the time. But we always end up concluding the discussions with, there are not really anyone to sign who fits the role and everything that we need from a backup striker.
I mean, yeah, but I think if you look closely, I think there are a few players that might not be okay with being a backup striker, but I'm not saying sign a backup striker. I'm saying sign a striker that could start over Benzema sometimes when he's not playing well. And I'm not saying sign Colomwani, but I'm saying sign someone of quality. That's what I mean. That could, challenge Benzema. And if Benzema is not playing well, you have someone on the bench, or you have someone in your team that can play the big games, I guess. Because Benzema, you saw the game against City. You saw the first leg against City as well. He was not good.
Yeah, but everyone was poor against City. But who would you sign then for this backup striker role?
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't really have I don't really have that many options. I think if Madrid can sign a striker like Colomwani, but he's really expensive. I'm sure there are a few. Like I said, I'm not really I'm not that I'm not an expert on signing this stuff, but that's what I would go for. Like a young striker who, someone like Julian Alvarez. I would have signed him in the first place, man. He's so good. I think he obviously he's not going to come to Madrid, but that's what I mean.
Someone like that, I guess. Yeah, that would fit our transfer policy. That would be someone who would be willing to sit on the bench quite a lot, and could also have an impact when coming in. So I mean that's someone like that, and I agree. It's not fair to ask us as fans to find the perfect replacement and someone an option to give competition to Benzema, because there are so many leagues out there. You can look in the Belgian league, the Brazilian league, the Argentinian league. I also struggle sometimes to think surely there must be one player out there who can fill this role. But I guess it's just what makes me lose a bit interest in those discussions is that every time the discussions find place, we try to discuss maybe this player, maybe that player, but we always end up concluding that no, he's either going to be too expensive, not going to be willing to sit on the bench, or maybe not, for example, be that much better than Rodrigo. And then there's the case of next summer, Mbappe will have his contract expiring. Haaland could maybe have his clause could be activated or something like that. So, I mean, I just feel like it's going to end up with an underwhelming signing. In addition to us, if we signed Bellingham, we would have spent a lot of money. So there wouldn't be that much else. But yeah, I guess Joselu to just be there for the first team. Álvaro playing one more season for Castilla, because this is his first proper season for Castilla. I guess that's a good solution. But
but consider
I would also be interested to see Álvaro playing more.
Yeah, but consider this. Okay, Joselu plays for a couple of seasons, and then we sign someone like Haaland or Mbappe. What happens to Álvaro? That's the thing. I think Madrid, they will try to go for someone like them, and if that happens, I think Álvaro, he would probably want to leave. No.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, if that's how we decide whether a player should be promoted or not, I mean, it would be impossible to promote any player, because there's always the chance of signing Mbappe or Haaland or so.
I'm not saying don't promote him. I'm just asking, what do you think is going to happen with him?
Oh, he will definitely not start. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just think what makes me okay. Let's compare I'm actually more optimistic for Álvaro as a first team player than Arribas, and that maybe sounds crazy, but Arribas is he's the better player, but the profile of Álvaro is so useful in for the first team. Just coming off the bench, he's exactly what we need to come off the bench and do some headers, and especially when the other team sits back, we put him next to Benzema. So I that's why I just think he would be he would fit almost every category that we ask from a backup striker. It's just that we're not really sure if his quality is high enough. And yeah, I guess I can understand why people are skeptical.
Yeah.
But I'm optimistic.
I mean, I do like him. I wouldn't say these things. I wouldn't praise him this much if I didn't like Álvaro. I just want to see how good he is in those situations enough, with a good sample size. That's all I mean. Because if he plays 10 games for the first team, he won't be able to play for Castilla. That's also something to consider.
Yes. The first team players are about to enter the pitch, so I will just a couple of quick notes. I just wanted to mention Pablo Ramon because I thought he had a few good involvements. Just so he's been ignored quite a bit from us whenever he's played, so I thought he deserved a mention. Sadly, unless I've seen something wrong, RSC Internacional, which is going to be our third team, Real Madrid C next season, they did not manage to get promoted. So I guess they will stay. Will it be I guess it's like the fifth tier of the Spanish league, so that's not good.
Yeah.
And the Castilla, if they don't manage to get promoted either, I mean, it's going to be a bit of not a wasted season, but I guess because Internacional, our C team, they were very close to get promoted, and they had the current Espanyol coach as their coach because he did a good job, but they stole him from us. Understandably, he wanted to have the opportunity in the first league. So just thought I would mention that. And Obrador won the treble with Juvenil. So that's the news.
That's 150 goals scored. That's just crazy.
Wow.
Just lost one game the whole season.
The future looks bright for Castilla. If these are the guys who will lead us in the future, I think we have a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. I think Manuel Angel, I think he's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
go ahead.
Just one quick thing that we should mention. Iker Bravo played today.
Yeah, he actually played. And also Álvaro Leiva for the first time in a long time. And Alex Jimenez, rare opportunity. It was a bit weird to see those suddenly being thrown onto the pitch at the same time after not playing at all almost. But yeah.
What do you think
Iker
about
Bravo did.
Yeah.
Iker Bravo?
Yeah.
I thought he had some good involvements. I mean, it's not easy to make an impact, but actually,
he won my opinion.
Decent. Yeah.
I think it was one of his best cameos I've seen.
Yeah.
He
had some good flicks and yeah.
Yeah, it was good. He was actually you could see him on the pitch, which is it's a shame that you don't see him enough because if he's involved, he's really good. But he was involved against Fuenlabrada and he was actually trying to link up with Álvaro. He was trying to get the ball. He was pressing. I think he was good, and I do want I've shat on Iker Bravo enough for 2 seasons, but I think that Iker Bravo is that kind of player that could actually play better if he played for the first team. I would like to see him one game for the first team at some point.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think he's really good. He can be really good, but he's just really consistent.
Let Iker Bravo get the opportunity for the first team. That's a hot take, but I like it. I think he was considered a very short while ago one of the best talents in the whole of Spain, actually. So something has happened to him, but I like it. I like the suggestion.
Yeah, just one game to see if it's just if it's that kind of player that could play well with better teammates around him.
Yeah,
stuff like that. Sure. Anyway, the game's about to start.
Yeah,
And
perfect. Thank you for the conversation as always, Hridyam.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
And thanks to everyone listening to the Castilla Corner. We will try to be back next week. But until then, we will say, as always, a la Madrid.
A la Madrid.